The Batman of Joyful Defiance, aka Lady Gaga, is so back, but really she never left. She just happens to excel at like every medium that ever exists, so she's just hopping from project to project. But you better bet as soon as I heard the abracadabra and the accompanying bass line, I was sold. I was in. And I'm not alone in that. This music video is already #1 on trending for music on YouTube. It's resonating with so many people. Everyone's dancing to it, as they should. But it's not just because it's a fantastic pop song with great production and stunning visuals. Okay, that's just like the bare minimum now that we expect from someone as seasoned as Lady Gaga. But it's that the lyrics hit so hard, especially in a place like America, where every day it can feel like we're losing more and more of a grasp of happiness and general security as a common individual. We will get into lyrics in a second, but I just want to take a second and commend Miss Gaga for the fact that she has always used her platform to speak up for those who are marginalized, especially when it's not popular and especially when she receives direct retribution from it.
Trans people are not invisible. Trans people deserve love. The queer community deserves to be lifted up. Music is love.
I think this facet of all that Lady Gaga has come to represent is part of the context that gives this song and so many other seemingly innocent pop songs the power that they earnestly deserve. A lot of people are saying that Gaga is back because they are saying that sonically, this track and Disease are reminding them of The Fame and The Fame Monster, which I can understand that, right? We've got like electro influence. I also find it very interesting that The Fame came out at a time, 2008, where there was a lot of civil unrest in America. So it kind of feels like a weird full circle moment. But obviously, we are in unrest for a very different reason than 2008, but still interesting. Sometimes the best art can be born out of crises. Not that we should encourage crises, but you know what I mean. And while we might be receiving sort of a parallel electronic hard hitting soundscape, it's really cool to look back and see from that point to this point what a absolute career and what a force this woman is. And also just what an incredible icon in the true sense of the word, of which what the Lady Gaga project and how she portrays herself as an artist has come to represent. I have always been attracted to Lady Gaga's music, not just because bangers on bangers and dark electronic influence, but also because she does a phenomenal job of fighting for light while still acknowledging that the dark does exist, and sometimes it very much has an allure. For me personally, and there's no one right way to express yourself, especially as a woman, but I remember watching an interview or something of Lady Gaga many years ago where she talked about how, if you don't know, there was this one iconic performance at South by Southwest by Miss Gaga, which was sponsored by Doritos, because yes, artists need sponsorship. Okay, Abracadabra sponsored by MasterCard. Fun fact. But anyway, back to the story. She did this wild performance where she insinuated vomit. But it that detail, and it's kind of bad that I'm doing it now, but that detail cannot be separated from the performance itself. I think in many ways she incorporates performance art into her presentation, and it's really inspiring to me to remember that your art does not have to represent exactly who you are as a person, right? And that presentation is not always supposed to be desirable. It's supposed to make you feel something, even if that something is icky or disgusted. While some level of darkness, whether that's visually, sonically, has always been a part of Lady Gaga's art, one of the main differences in this era is it seems like she's in just a wholesome, happy state. And I promise we will get to Abracadabra lyrics very soon. But I do think this happiness, this like career lap of coming back to a similar soundscape, but being in a what appears to be a much happier and wholesome headspace really helps to transmute the hope that has always been a through line in her music. Okay, so now let's talk about lyrics. Honestly, this is one of the few times that genius.com is incredibly accurate. So shout out to the contributors here. But I wanted to read some of the annotations just because, wow. First of all, the word abracadabra. Originating from Mesopotamia, in its roots, it stands for I create as I speak. Malaria sufferers would wear an amulet containing abracadabra written in the form of a triangle to cure the disease. We're curing the disease. The disease. I can cure your disease. It's being cured. What is the disease, you ask? It's internal darkness that is being perpetuated more and more and more by the troubles of the outside world, by the greed of the outside world that's on full display, and more tempting than ever to not necessarily give into it, but just become so numbed and paralyzed by the weight of all this gunk that you lose your light. Abracadabra says, girl, no. I'm still gonna dance. You cannot take my light from me. And ooh boy, is that a sweet, comforting, loving, and fun reminder. I think one of my favorite lines from the song, keep your mind on the distance when the devil turns around. Just because something is in front of you, just because you are overexposed to something and constantly seeing certain messages become ubiquitous across the media landscape, that's not you. We live in an age where it's more difficult than ever to determine the distinction between who we are and what we consume, because consuming is passive. Defining who we are, having a level of critical thinking, sitting and having some level of self-awareness, including in the ways in which you can improve, these all take work and they all take a level of discomfort that you have to want, you have to fight for. Those are the things that are going to bring you community and joy and love. And so they're worth going for in spite of all the really, really heavy things that are happening in our world. On community, I mean, you can see a lot of this paired, mixed into the visuals of the music video, but there's this light force, this group chorus, and while they may be lower in this proverbial world that's being created in the music video, they are many and they are connected. And how much more valuable is that than the solitude of being elevated? Practically, she's working with like 50 dancers, right? Like, what a feat. There's a really great interview with Elle, which I highly recommend checking out, but she talks about this figure, the lady in red, throughout the song. And the lady in red is used to represent many different things throughout film and art. But in this context, Gaga talks about how it's you battling with yourself. It's you battling with your level of inner strength, inner power. And on that note, I think it's also worth talking about how Miss Gaga has fibromyalgia. Okay, for those of you who don't know, this is an incredibly painful chronic condition. It's the fact that this music video happened is just a testament to the human spirit. There can be many parts of the self, And it's not to say that there isn't always going to be some level of internal struggle. This song talks about that duality and how those two opposing forces that are not just in the self, but also in everyone, and therefore like our communities and countries and broader context of the world. I want to make an entire video on this subject, but it took me a while to realize that you really have to fight for good. Good and peace and harmony are not the default, right? And in order to be joyful and happy and all of those things, you have to be an active participant. That means putting in effort. That means dealing with this conflict that constantly exists in you and me and in everyone else, and choosing the right path, which this song also directly refers to in verse 2. It is our responsibility to remind ourselves that we are not as far astray as it might appear, and that we do not need to totally give in to fear. Should we make the choice to connect with the people around us who are all very much feeling similar things? Gaga said that she would do anything for love, and we should too. Love is work, love is hard, but love is worth it. And so is dancing. So is dancing. Woohoo! Anyway, it's a banger, and that is indisputable. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not hip, my name is Kate. I love music, and you can too. And I will be back to talk about something soon. Thank you, Miss Gaga, for always bringing it. And yeah, I'm so stoked about Mayhem. What a great song.